is the world's second largest food company with operations in over 200 countries. They are a platinum sponsor of Million Women Mentors. Today, we welcome their Vice President of Quality Assurance, a person responsible for the quality of all PepsiCo products across all categories and all geographies. A leader in STEM herself, she is committed to helping redress the balance and encourage more women and girls to enter STEM fields. Please welcome, from Cork, Ireland, Cleona Murphy.
Hello from Cork, Ireland, and thank you to STEM Connector and Million Women Mentors for the opportunity to speak to you today. Now let's start with some great news. Earlier this month, 2 female scientists were jointly awarded the 2020 Nobel Prize for Chemistry for developing the tools to edit DNA. Frances Emmanuelle Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna of the US are the first 2 women to share the prize, which honors their work for the technology of genome editing. Now, there are 4 STEM-related Nobel categories: chemistry, physics, physiology or medicine, and economics. And across the 4 categories, there were a total of 10 winners, of which 3 were women. So 3 out of a pool of 10 isn't the minimum 5 we aspire to, but it's 3 more than we've seen for decades in these categories. And decades from now, can you think of any greater source of pride for any of the mentors here today if one of our former mentees gets that call at 3 a.m. from Stockholm, notifying her she's just won the Nobel Prize? But there's still a lot of work to do to make that happen. In 2020, 1 in 4 STEM jobs, not 1 in 2, is occupied by women. Now, as someone who works for the second largest food company in the world, I have visibility into almost every STEM capability. PepsiCo has agronomists, food scientists, experts in physiology and medicine, statisticians and finance experts that enable our business to operate in over 200 countries. And of course, we have engineers who also build food and beverage production lines across the world. And it's really fascinating for me to see where STEM credentialed women in PepsiCo land. We have a lot of women in food science, for example, but far fewer female engineers. You know, it's interesting. Most people my age don't blink today when a young woman says she wants to be a nutritionist or a physician. But if she says she's interested in becoming an engineer, I still sense a disconnect, even if it's unspoken. In engineering, despite all our collective efforts, only 17% of practitioners are women. Now, as someone who studied engineering and mathematics as an undergrad, I wonder if one way to get those numbers up to 25%, never mind to 50%, is to reframe the story we tell young women about these career paths, to explain how engineering is also about caring, how building a production line that saves millions of gallons of water is caring for the planet, how building housing for low-income people is caring for society, how engineering artificial hips and knees is caring for people's health and well-being. Now, every day, I and other mentors inside PepsiCo, from Dallas to Delhi, are striving to influence our young women to make a bigger and better impact in STEM. Through the power of example, by customizing our approach to mentees on a one-on-one basis, by finding creative ways to connect, and most recently, by leveraging our technical expertise. Now, here's an irony for you. People in STEM professions tend to value the quantitative over the qualitative, the digital over the analog. Yet much of the mentoring process is qualitative and analog, a fairly subjective matchmaking exercise. And at PepsiCo, we're determined to bring more rigor to the mentoring process, just as we're bringing it to the R&D process. At the moment, our R&D organization is in the midst of a major conversion to digitalization across every stage of the value chain. Drones now fly across potato farms, transmitting high-resolution images in real time that measure color gradations in plants and soil allowing growers to make near instantaneous calibrations to optimize growth conditions and plant health. Consumer opinion will increasingly inform every stage of the product development cycle. Literally millions of insights will be sourced, sorted, and leveraged in machine-driven, digitized ways to anticipate and satisfy demand. And we're now looking to apply those same advances in digitalization to the mentoring process. Not to make it less personal, but to make it more so. We've just built and launched a new mentoring app to pair mentors and mentees and to make scheduling those conversations much easier. We've also taken our meetings virtual and, of course, provided training on how to do so. Now, COVID made this a must-do since we can't meet face-to-face, but we're finding that this has the potential to enhance our mentoring efforts substantially, with or without COVID. Instead of simply matching up two resumes, we can now source potentially dozens of other inputs, hard data like language preferences or career choices, and soft data such as hobbies or adjacent interests, and within seconds enable mentees to find and connect with a suitable mentor across the company much, much faster. It really is my hope that this and other technological upgrades will also help us with our recruiting and diversity efforts across the company. What's happening in America right now, in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, has captured the world imagination. During the summer, PepsiCo CEO Ramon Laguarta publicly announced a series of commitments pegged to diversity as part of the company's racial equality journey, which among other pledges included expanding our Black managerial population by 30% by 2025 through internal development and through recruitment, accelerating our recruitment efforts with historically Black colleges and universities, and increasing partnerships with diverse organisations at core schools, establishing scholarship support for students transitioning from 2-year to 4-year programmes, and scaling our existing efforts to support trade certificate and academic 2-year degrees education through community colleges for 400 Black students per year, and supporting Black-owned restaurants as part of our small business programme, including mentoring, management training, and help obtaining finance. PepsiCo's commitment to diversity and to lifting up Black communities in particular is not new. In 1962, Harvey Russell, who had come up through the sales ranks at PepsiCo, was named a vice president at the company, becoming the first Black officer of a major US multinational corporation. We still have a long way to go. Structural inequality isn't just an American phenomenon. I think it's fair to say that in virtually every country in the world, some groups are historically more advantaged or disadvantaged than others. So to the extent we can shrink those gaps worldwide, this is a priority too. We need more diversity in all professions, but especially STEM professions, because the technical and scientific problems we are confronting today are so complex. Obviously, a COVID vaccine is the most urgent priority, and STEM people are working really hard to make that happen. But the effects of COVID on PepsiCo's ability to bring products to market and to our consumers are forcing constant real-time STEM innovation. Our supply chains have been disrupted, which is creating challenges and opportunities on farms, warehouses, and production facilities. Before COVID, we sold our foods and beverages in grocery stores, vending machines, in restaurants, offices, schools, at sporting events and concert venues. Half our sales channels have been shut down. People stuck at home are leaning heavily into e-commerce, which is forcing us to rethink packaging and distribution. Drones delivering grocery bags to your doorstep, a novel idea not so long ago, will become the norm over the next decade. Customized innovation for e-commerce will be required. New technologies devised by STEM experts will transform packaging, making it lighter and more sustainable with less waste. Over the next few years, that 36-can soda pack shipped to your home may well be replaced with concentrated flavour syrup pods for in-home beverage dispensers such as SodaStream. From COVID to climate change to the challenge that my company and other food companies face in feeding a world that will increase by 2 billion people by 2050 to 9.8 billion. An estimated 50% increase in agricultural production is going to be required to feed that population. At the same time, food and packaging waste is increasing while water and farmland is decreasing. It's STEM people who will solve these problems. And we need as many ideas sourced from as many people as possible with different points of view to find solutions. People as diverse as our consumer base. Not just Black people and white people, but people of all ethnic backgrounds, men and women, rich and poor, young digital natives and older experienced workers. People with diverse interests, experience and backgrounds and points of view. People who went to top schools and people who ventured into STEM careers by way of a junior college. Let me tell you, many ingenious innovations in PepsiCo come from colleagues who live and work in developing countries. These colleagues were never conditioned to throw a lot of money at a problem because they didn't have a big budget. So they learned how to throw a lot of imagination at a problem. A diverse workforce generates more ideas than a monocultural one. That's a fact. It's likewise a fact that mentoring is a two-way street. The ideas we can source from an emergent generation of talent can be just as valuable as the guidance we provide young women. Whether that's at PepsiCo's MWM chapters around the US or the chapters we've launched in Canada, Ireland, the UK, Europe, Mexico, and India. In closing, I don't have to tell people on this call that 2020 has been a surreal year. But if there's a silver lining to all this, I'm convinced that adage that necessity is the mother of invention will bear out. Not in spite of the crisis, but because of it. And when the COVID crisis finally abates, it will be STEM people, many of them STEM women, who will usher in what may wind up being an unprecedented era of adaptation, of hope, and of progress. Thank you.